The latest episode of the Illini Inquirer podcast that dropped over the weekend from Jeremy Werner, who's been crushing it this entire summer, features a former colleague of mine back when I worked for the Field of 12, which was the football spinoff of the Field of 68. Yogi Roth was on our team of on-camera talent that first year. And I remember that year, I watched a lot of the Field of 12 shows I wasn't on. Yogi was one of our other hosts. He was so good. He was so absurdly it was obvious this dude's like one of the most talented football analysts on earth. And since we worked together at Field of 12, it's been what, 4 or 5 years now. He's been hired by the Big Ten Network. He does all of this on-site reporting. He's called games, but I just find him so refreshing. It's almost the way I sort of used to view Jason Benetti when he would do basketball stuff, even Robbie Hummel. Like, he's just the best. He's the best football analyst there is. So great guest. Werner was able to book him to get some behind-the-scenes thoughts on Illinois football as we head into the season. And in the end, Yogi, as always happens when you listen to Yogi, you end up getting this very nuanced thought. Anything he's having is like a very just creative, unique way to think about things. And he talks about Illinois' burden of expectations and how that normally can go one of two ways and weigh a program down. But his experience from going to Illinois practice and seeing Brett Bielema's team inside the walls in the locker room was much different than feeling burdened or weighted down by these expectations. So I'm going to try and play a clip of this. I don't know how the audio will go. This is Yogi describing what he saw at Illinois a couple weeks ago leading into this Illinois football season.
When I walked into that team meeting that night, I didn't know what to expect. I knew Coach Bielema a little bit. We've interviewed him a handful of times. Like, he's always been super cool, but never knew the ethos of what was in the walls of that building. And I'm not going to pretend that I am an expert in it now, but in my limited experience a couple of weeks ago, when we walked in that evening, you could feel a lightness. Like, it was light. And I believe that things can be hard, but they don't have to be heavy. It's hard to win games. It's hard to go training camp. It doesn't have to feel heavy. And it didn't feel that way. Watching players get up in front of the team, listening to the head coach speak, listening to assistants speak, it felt as though they've embraced as a program that everybody has a chip on their shoulder. And for some, maybe that chip is larger than others. And two things can be true. They've also embraced that this is what a cool opportunity that we've earned, is to gain and garner hype from others around the country. And I just walked out and said, it felt light. And then when I watched her practice, it felt the same way. So
I'll stop it there, but it felt light was the term that Yogi kept coming back to. And before the clip I started playing there, if you listen to the full interview, he really does sort of lay this out of, like, as a guy who's been in locker rooms. Yogi was a college football player himself. He's covered the sport for years. When there are big expectations, not just big expectations for any given year, but big expectations like for the first time. Because that's what's going on with Illinois, right? They're coming into a year, really for the first time ever, Illinois football is like seriously talking Rose Bowl coming into a season. That's new. You don't know how a team's going to handle that. And Yogi laid it out as it can go one of two ways. Either it crushes you and there's a heaviness to it, or there's a lightness to it and everyone is just comfortable. And I love the way he laid that out. Again, very nuanced, great analysis from Yogi. But do you buy that this matters? Are you buying that Illinois football is just going to be comfortable with the weight of these expectations based on what Brett Bielema and his team have put together?
Yes, because are they like true expectations? Like I feel I always say this, there's the hunter and then there's the huntee, or excuse me, the hunted. I'm sorry. Um Illinois might have pretty high expectations for themselves. I think like other people have high expectations for Illinois too, maybe not the same level, like maybe not as high. But I mean, I'm looking at Illinois' schedule right now, right? Like they play Indiana September 20th. They got Ohio State October 11th. Um, those are really the only like truly like crazy big games they have. Obviously, they play Wisconsin, Purdue, USC, so and Duke September 6th. But they're not going into those two games. They wouldn't go into the Big Ten title game, whether that's against Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, as favorites. Like they might go into the Indiana game as a slight favorite, but I still think because of what Indiana did last year, Indiana's the one that's more so looking like we have to defend our territory, and Illinois has to come be the hunter. And I think as long as you get to hunt and people aren't hunting for you, you can have high expectations, but you can still surprise people. And I do believe they can handle the high expectations because they're still the hunter.
So I believe this. I 100% buy that this team is like, I don't know. We constantly keep hearing chip on the shoulder. That's the word Bielema has used to describe it. But with chips on the shoulder, let me speak to the idea of having a chip on your shoulder, Dion, because I'm an all-time manufactured chip on the shoulder guy, right? There are some people, some organizations, some locker rooms, some teams that love having a chip on their shoulder, and then there's some that are faking it. And listen, again, I like to manufacture chips, but the thing is, you can come up, you can give yourself a chip on the shoulder as long as you actually feel it and you actually embrace it and it actually motivates you and gets you going and you come into games with that chip feeling like this is how I want to feel. I want to feel like no one believes in us. I want to feel like the underdog. Then there are teams that try to do it that just can't. And you can't fake it. You cannot fake it. But here's the truth to me as I step back and look at this Illinois team. Isn't this team embodying who Luke Altmaier is? Isn't Luke Altmaier one of the all-time, like, I, nobody believes in me guys? I'm just a normal guy, right? I'm Luke Altmaier. What? I'm not coming in with Heisman hype. I'm not an all-conference player. I'm none of those things. Nobody thinks I can do this. Okay, let's roll up the sleeves and go. Let's see what we got. Because I was pretty damn good last year. And SEC teams want me this year. I don't need an SEC team. I think I can do this here. And I'm comfortable here. Like, to me, you've got a great leader in that dude who embodies the chip on the shoulder underdog mantra. And I think Brett Bielema has done a good job, not just, building around Luke Altmaier, but surrounding this locker room with guys that are wired the same way. Brett Bielema, I think, works as one of these underdog dudes. Obviously, Brett Bielema is a good coach, but man, when he was winning at Wisconsin years and years and years ago, Wisconsin wasn't picked to win the Big Ten every year. When he went to the SEC and had success in the SEC, he was never picked to win the SEC every year. So, it reminds me, it truly does, vibes-wise, it reminds me of prime Mark D'Antonio years at Michigan State, where they never had the biggest names, but that locker room just had a looseness and a comfortability around it of like, we want the smoke with everybody. We want to be the underdog and we want to show up against Ohio State and Michigan and we want it. And let's see if they want it. And I think the aura I'm getting from Illinois based on people talking in this locker room is like, we want it, man. What's our win total? You got us at 7 wins this year? What did we win last year? 9 games? You got us at 7 wins? We returned 16 starters? Let's go, man. And I do think it's going to fuel this team. I really do.
Yeah, I think they can handle it. But Rose Bowl is playoff though, right? And like, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the second round of the playoff.
Yeah. I mean, Rose Bowl, I think Yogi mentioned Rose Bowl just being like, they're in the mix, but I don't think that's necessarily like been a talking point that I've heard.
Is it more so like the previous teams in the Big Ten would be like, oh, we're gonna go to the Rose Bowl. That means we won the Big Ten. Is it more so like that element of it? And then it's like, hey, we're gonna be in the second round of the playoff? Because that feels like two different.
Rose Bowl historically has just been the mark of Big Ten success. Like you win the
Got you.
Big Ten, you go to the Rose Bowl. So.
Got you. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't because like I think there's a massive difference between like if you said in 2018 like oh we're gonna go to the Rose Bowl as this Illinois team and then if you say it this year just because of what the Rose Bowl kind of implicates because that honestly might actually be a college football semi game too. Like it's crazy where the Rose Bowl is being played and at this point. But yeah, like I said, I think they can handle it just because like when they play Ohio State, no one's gonna believe they can win anyway. So the games that are the biggest games on Illinois' schedule, like Illinois fans will believe they can win, the team will believe they can win. I'm not saying they can't. They very well might be able to, but no one's gonna go into those games Like they're gonna go into that Ohio State game as like 7, 8 point dogs at best. If they played Penn State, Oregon, like 7, 8 point dogs at best. So like I still think they are a pesky enough underdog to kind of manage like, hey, we have high expectations, but also like our backs against the wall, chip on the shoulder, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, but you gotta actually like enjoy that though too, which is the difference and why I'm buying into this team. I mean, I've been on record. This is my favorite preseason bet. I think Illinois is going to be a playoff contender. I went on the Bet River show and said literally I'm betting them to make the playoff. It's 6-1 odds. That's crazy to me. I just thought they were a good football team last year. And when good football teams return this many guys and still feel like nobody believes in them, that's when special seasons come together. And I really do think that this is one of those teams. There are teams that will talk about a chip on the shoulder. There are teams that will talk about their togetherness and their self-belief. But then when they see Ohio State lined up across from them, you can tell they don't actually buy it. Um, I think this Illinois team buys it. And it might not be enough to beat the big dogs. It really might not. But it can go a long way with a quarterback like Luke Altmaier leading the way. So I'm in. Shout out to Yogi Roth. That interview was incredible. Go listen to the full Illini Inquirer interview with Jeremy Werner, who's doing great work as well.